You're watching Rurouni K95's TV show review on Kung Fu The Legend Continues. Hi Ruronis, this is your pal Rurouni K95 here. Today's TV show review, I decided to do a sequel to the original Kung Fu series for today's TV show review is Kung Fu The Legend Continues. Kung Fu The Legend Continues is an American-Canadian crime drama series and a sequel to the original 1972-1975 television series Kung Fu. So the thing about Kung Fu The Legend Continues, however, of course, while the original Kung Fu series was set in the American Old West, so for Kung Fu The Legend Continues, however, it was set in modern times as well. Yep. It starred David Carradine and Chris Potter. Yep. As father and son trained in Kung Fu, Carradine played a Shaolin monk, Potter a police office detective. So the series aired in syndication for 4 seasons from January 27th, 1993 to January 1st, 1997 and was broadcasted in over 70 countries as it was aired in Japan. And at this point, as it would have been aired over 71 countries at this point. Filming took place in Ontario, Toronto, which is in Canada. Reruns of the show have been aired on TNT, like his grandfather. So the plot is like his grandfather and namesake from the original Kung Fu TV series. Kwai Chang Caine is a Shaolin priest who he was the head of the temple in Northern California, which is the Shaolin Temple, where his son Peter also lived and studied until his temple was destroyed in a fire caused by a renegade priest named Tan, who believed the priests would serve better as mercenaries, who believed the priests would serve believing the other had perished as well. You guessed it. Yep. They went their separate ways. Caine traveled while Peter eventually became a police officer. The series begins when Caine comes to the city's Chinatown section, where Peter's precinct is, and they are reunited after being separated for 15 years later. Caine is highly intelligent, wise, and honorable as well as a master of kung fu. However, as the series progresses, and we find out that his extensive training and mastery of many various arts and skills allow him to perform impressive and often impossible and superhuman feats as well. Yep. Including opening locked doors, extinguishing flame with the wave at a hand, and going without oxygen for extended periods of time, and even using forms of psychokinesis and psychokinesis raised by a foster family in the real world, and believing for so long that his family was all dead. Peter has become somewhat cynical and cold. At the beginning of the series, he very much personifies the stereotypical average big city police detective, having forgotten and buried much of what he has taught as a child. Later in the series, Peter undergoes the full Shaolin training regimen and completes it successfully, but stops short of becoming a priest until the series finale. So after the series was ended, the show was canceled, and when its producer, Primetime Entertainment Network, also known as PTEN, ceased operations, and no network opted to continue the series, but the show did air on the Canadian TV channel show network called Showcase Channel back in the day. So the music for Kung Fu The Legend Continues is composed by Jeff Dana, and the person who did the narration for the intro of Kung Fu The Legend Continues is Richard Anderson, who is from the Bionic Woman series. Actors like Ron Rubin and Dennis Akiyama from the Deke English dub of the anime series Sailor Moon. For Ron Rubin, who is known for the voice as Artemis in the Sailor Moon English dub by Deke, played Everett Cooper in a couple of episodes of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, which are Shadow Assassin and Return of Shadow Assassin. But ironically, Shadow Assassin is only in season 1, but Return of Shadow Assassin is only in season 2, with Martin Kove, who is known as Rocky in the episode of the Incredible Hulk 1978 series episode Final Round, and he also played Cobra Kai in the Karate Kid movies, and Dennis Akiyama, who played Kunsight in the Sailor Moon series in the English dub from DeK, played Thomas Lai in an episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues Warlord. According to David Carradine's biography book, Endless Highway, an executive producer of Warner Brothers, Greg Madej, had brainstormed around the country and performed an ad network for to take the series Kung Fu: The Legend Continues a further premature precaution of Kung Fu car crashes again, but without the Dukes of Hazzard. The deal was made. So the episode "The Possessed" is where the priest at a Catholic church has been possessed by a ghost of a Chinese warrior, Sung Guai, as well, which is right out of The Exorcist as well, you expect. Well, as of course, the girl was possessed by a demon in The Exorcist, but of course, the priest was possessed by a ghost of a Chinese warrior as well. In the episode of The Possessed, however, from the second season of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, speaking of which, Gunfighters episode from the third season of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, or any episode, is where Kwai Chang Caine dodges bullets, which is predating The Matrix, with Keanu Reeves' film 5 years early, after the series was over in January 1st, 1997, when 1999 came. And for the final season of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, however, the episode, which is A Shaolin Christmas, was aired on December 25th, 1996, which is supposed to come out particularly like on Christmas morning, especially for Kung Fu: The Legend, the final season of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. And for the episode from Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, which is the episode Initiation Part 1, where they use stock footage from the original Kung Fu series, which is the pilot episode, where Kwai Chang Caine has those marks of the tattoo marks on his wrists are the dragon and the tiger, which is basically from the original 1972 Kung Fu TV series, I have on the VHS and season 1 of Kung Fu original series from the 70s as well. But anyway, and so the song in the first episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, which is My Heart and My Soul, is the kind of song that I don't think radio would have been playing that song, because I think that's one of those songs that are made for and written for television in its day, back in 1993, which is Initiation Part 1, and the actor who played young Peter Caine is played by Nathaniel Moru, who is known for the Nickelodeon series Are You Afraid of the Dark? So for the series, thing about the TV series Kung Fu: The Legend Continues is that it only had lasted about 4 seasons, from January 27th, 1993 until January 1st, 1997, for basically 27 years, especially for Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. Stunt coordinator Al Leong, who played the evil warlord Jian Shu in the episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues Warlord, was not pleased with his tenure on the show. He believed that the production moved at too much of breakneck pace, leaving too little at a time for creative development and safety standards, after quarreling with the producers and occasionally taking over script writing, and ironically wrote a letter to Warner Brothers Studios which outlined the hazards and oversights of the production. When his letter was ignored, he left the show, and in an episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, which is the episode Rite of Passage, which it has stock footage from the episode of The Soul is the Warrior from the first season of the original Kung Fu series, which is where Kwai Chang Caine walks through the pit of those rattlesnakes. But in the episode of the Rite of Passage, which is from the third season of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, however, where Peter Caine has referenced Star Wars, which he thought it was an outtake from Star Wars when he sees a Chinese warrior with that black helmet thing. which looked like a samurai helmet, particularly in Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. So for Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, however, it has been a great series sequel to the original Kung Fu series, however. I mean, basically, it's like is one of those shows like that has not been played on television as it was frequently back in those days, back in the 90s, such as Canadian network channels like Showcase Network Channel as well for this particular sequel to the original Kung Fu series, which is part of Primetime Entertainment Networks, which it comes on every channels that are back in the 90s, along with other shows such as Babylon 5 and Time Tracks as well, for those particular contemporary television shows that has been aired on particularly like for and also speaking of which, Initiation Part 1 and 2 of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues that has been edited as a full movie version under Kung Fu: A Legend Reborn, which is only available in on my Kung Fu: The Legend Reborn VCD as discs 1 and 2, which is basically like has brief nudity only in the full movie version of the first episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, which is Initiation Part 1, but it was just not which is not the TV broadcast version where they removed brief nudity in Part 1 of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues Initiation. But particularly so, otherwise it would have been out of context for a particular series like Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. Yeah, because the thing about Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, the thing about in Shadow Assassin is where, because yeah, is particularly where anyone has connected with the Shadow Assassin book dies, which Everett Cooper said during the crime scene in the episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues Shadow Assassin, where he sees the victim's forehead, where he sees the mark of the Shadow Assassin, and he thinks that the book Shadow Assassin is not about enchilada recipes because he says it's about death. Because the actor who played particularly Everett Cooper in the episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues Shadow Assassin, he's played by Ron Rubin, who is the English voice actor for Artemis in the anime series Sailor Moon, which is produced by DiC at the time. Yeah, as well as Dennis Akiyama, which played Thomas Lai in the episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues Warlord, does the voice as Kunsight in the Sailor Moon series, especially for the English dub. But overall, Kung Fu: The Legend Continues did got a DVD release from Warner Archive, but only released it like only 2 seasons of them. But I'm pretty sure why Warner Archive needs to really get together and release the last 2 remaining seasons of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues on DVD, which are basically season 3 and the final season, which is season 4. Because because it has the Christmas episode, A Shaolin Christmas, which has aired on December 25th, 1996, which is particularly on Christmas morning for particular TV series like Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. Because it's particularly one of those shows that I watch because I consider this to be my all-time favorite 90s TV show. If you love a TV show from the 90s back in your childhood, what's to start with that you remember seeing it on TNT, chances you're going to have to choose Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. Otherwise, there's other notable titles that are part of Primetime Entertainment Network channels, show titles, such as Babylon 5 or Time Tracks. But however, overall, Kung Fu: The Legend Continues is particularly one of those miracles that brought to me how I got into the show, because the soundtrack was great. It kind of predated the music from Avatar: The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra, especially the music. If you listen to the intro of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues or each episode on the music score for the TV show Kung Fu: The Legend Continues as well. So that's going to be it for my TV show review on Kung Fu: The Legend Continues for today. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's my thoughts for the show, because this is particularly my first TV show review that I wanted to do a review on Kung Fu: The Legend Continues for the first time, I guess, because I have been reviewing my previous TV show reviews that I have recently did back in 2018 in the past as well, but my TV show review on Kung Fu: The Legend Continues definitely takes the cake as well, I guess. I have those, all four of those on DVD, which are fan sets. Hope subscribe for content. My anime plan link in the description down below. You can share this video on your Twitter, Facebook. If you have Twitter, Facebook account, and all social media, be sure to give this video a thumbs up by clicking on the like button. Feel free to leave in the comments section. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RoningK95. Feel free to join my channel, especially new on my channel. Hit the notifications bell button. Be sure to get notified. And if you haven't seen the show, I recommend you to check out Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. And I got another one coming up. Stay tuned for my coming soon TV show reviews at this point, because I will see you there with my anime review on Airmaster, because I will see you there on the same day as my anime review on Airmaster here.